Hi everyone. Welcome to Tᴡɪᴛᴛᴇʀ Days 2019. We're all excited. Election time. Interested. So the only people that we're aware for council positions that are here are disability reps. Is anyone running for any other council position? Put your hands up. Great, that's fantastic. So we're going to switch it up a bit because, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to invite the candidates for VP Education up first, if that's okay with them. So let me go and find that. But before we start, today you'll be hearing from your Students' Council and full-time officer candidates. You'll have the opportunity to ask them questions and find out more about their ideas and policies. If you want to ask a question, the people in red, or Sarah in the stripes just to be awkward, is who you hand in your questions to. We are going to be taking some questions on Twitter as well, so if you know people that aren't here who would like to submit questions, just let them know that they can do that. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get going. We want to keep this event positive, right? It's going to be informative and fun, so please listen to others. Keep what is said about the issues and not personal or individual, and keep this a safe and inclusive space. Also, I'm a bit awful and I'm a bit of a Liam Gallagher caricature, so I apologise in advance for saying any names wrong. So, without further ado, education officers, are you ready? Education officers, Jesus! So we have on the stage Steph Lomas, we have Alissa, and we have Alexander. I would now like to give each candidate 2 minutes to address the audience. And basically what I want you guys to do is introduce yourself and tell us why students want to vote for you. Is that okay? So we're going to start with Alissa.
Is that on? Yeah. Hi, I'm Alissa. I'm running for VP Education, as you might have guessed. Basically, I'm currently a school president. I've been a course rep for 2 years, so I've kind of been in the academic representation for a bit now. And basically, I'll just say why I'm running for VP Education. Basically, I come from a school background, education background, where I couldn't really influence any change, and when something wasn't going right, there was nothing like the students or I could do about it. Obviously here that's different, so that's why I'm running for VP Education, to change things and kind of continue what I've done as a course rep and school president, continue that on a bigger level and for the entire university. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Might go next, isn't it?
When you're ready.
Awesome. Yes. Hello everyone, my name's Alex. I'm running for VP Education. I am a teacher of music and I've taught for a year at Kendall College, and I've just come back to do my Masters to get a little bit more qualifications in teaching. I've been with this university now officially for 5 years, so I think I have a good understanding of how everything runs with this university. I was a course rep in my final year of my degree on the music production course of the School of Journalism and Media. I have an understanding of how elements of HR and how to directly talk with the elements of funding and management within the university, so I have a more of a direct link with certain changes that are going on and elements of direct changes that need to be done from the course of student support, extenuating circumstances, and better representation for students of every creed, every colour, every race, every sexuality. So I know how to best communicate towards the lecturers and the higher-ups how best to, what's the word? There's a word. Use better action. There you go, that's the word I was looking for. That's all I've got to say.
Steph, when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Steph Lomas. I'm the current school president of Lancashire Law School. I've been school president for 2 years. Bit of history about me: I was a foundation student from a non-traditional background. I believe education is a right, not a privilege, for all to enjoy. Education saved my life and it's saved countless others. I know it's cheesy, but it's true. So whilst I've been here, I was a course rep for 2 years, school president for 2 years, vice chair of an academic society for a year. I sit on the academic board for 2 years, and I'm also vice chair of student council, which is the best thing ever. I love student council. I'm here to put the U back in education. I'm here to talk about current students and get them back as a priority. For too long, our university has put money into attracting new students and not looking after the students we've got here. We need to have better timetabling system, a blackboard that actually works and supports students, support for staff, funding for staff that can support students, or, stuff like that. It's about getting the basics right. It's all well and good having all these nice shiny buildings, but if we're failing students in the here and now, we are doing something wrong. So vote for Steph for VP Education, number 1, stand by UCLan, your time is up.
By the way, if you see me on my phone, it's because I'm timing them, it's not because I'm checking my text. I'm not that popular. Our first question to you guys. So we're going to ask Steph first on this one. Do you agree with the rumoured proposals to decrease tuition fees to £6,500?
Yes, I do. In the long run, I'd like to see tuition fees completely abolished because I believe it is a barrier to education in the long run. I believe we are creating a barrier to people from working class families, but I think this is a start. And I think if I felt like the university was earning the money that we were actually paying, I would feel a lot better about paying it, and I think other students would too. It's, like I said, it's about bringing it back to standards. If we had a blackboard system that actually worked and, a student-focused action plan for when it broke down, I would be happy to pay it. If we had a timetabling system that actually worked, I would be happy to pay it, but we don't. So yeah, I totally agree with the new reforms, but there's more reform coming, and I believe a free education, because as I keep saying, education is a right, not a privilege for the upper few.
Thank you. Alex, same question. Do you need me to read it out again? Or?
Yes, please.
Do you agree with the rumoured proposals to decrease tuition fees to £6,500?
I do. I feel as though with tuition fees they have gone up exponentially, and that again, more people should be in education. To remove tuition fees completely is illogical. It would be too difficult for the university to completely abolish tuition fees. However, to lower them to 6,000 or even further would be ideal. Maybe even for those who come from a lower income family, they could have some extra support from the university in terms of more either bursaries or grants.
Thank you.
So I've actually come from an education background that was free because I'm from Germany originally, and then moved to South Africa where you pay tuition fees, so I've kind of seen both sides, and I definitely agree to lower them. Both has, as Alex said, both has its positives, because a lot of schools and universities that have tuition fees actually can offer the students even more, because they obviously have more money available to them. But £9,000 is a lot when a lot of things don't actually, that money doesn't actually get used for the right things. So I definitely would agree to lower it. Also, further than £6,000, that's still a lot if you think about every single one of us paying that every single year. But yeah, both have its positives and negatives.
Thank you. So we're looking for a question from the audience. Do I have to stage dive? Not quite. So if we start with Alex on this one. Different schools have different issues. How would you organise an approach to issues to avoid a blanket situation?
A blanket situation,
Yeah.
so would we be discussing like transgender rights and such?
Do you want me to read the question again?
Yeah.
Different schools have different issues. How would you organise an approach to issues to avoid a blanket situation?
I think maybe specialist training for an additional member of staff to deal with these situations, because if everything just fell on the lecturers, which it currently still does, it can easily be just lost in the milieu of extra emails. The deans of the various schools have to worry about different subjects going on and on and on. And then certain singular students who pose these questions and everything else that happens on afterwards, they kind of just get lost within the larger group. So maybe someone who either volunteers not only as like a class representative or president could then help with the lecturer or the deans to target these situations and focus on a more one-to-one communication skill to avoid these blanket situations.
Thank you. Steph, you next. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Just
Different schools have different issues. How would you organise an approach to issues to avoid a blanket situation?
Great question. When I've been talking to different schools, they go, if only the SU could see what we see. And I totally feel that. As part of my manifesto, I've got hashtag a day in the life. I vow to spend at least one day in every school listening to students on their terms, going into their lectures, checking out their blackboard, seeing what their issues are and how we can help them, because I think sometimes instead of them coming to the union, they have to come to us, and I think that is the most important thing. And it's about empowering our students to say, you know, when enough is enough. If they're not being listened to, is NSS effective? If they're not being listened to, are we as a students' union encouraging that proactive feedback in SSLCs? Our staff encouraging proactive feedback as part of their reflection on their teaching. I think that's a big issue. I think we have to create a positive culture around feedback and development, but a day in the life is definitely needed.
Thank you. I need to repeat the question again. Yeah? Cool.
So yeah, I definitely with that, if I'd be elected as an officer, I wouldn't kind of be the person that makes sense in the office. I actually want to go out and speak to students, because a lot of times they have all these issues and they might not even know about the SU, but even if they do, they might not have the confidence to actually go approach us and say, this is my issue. So say also if some of the course reps might know of the system, but some students don't know their course reps, so they have no idea how to actually give us this feedback. So I definitely want to go out, speak to students, as many students as possible in the different schools, and obviously then get a broader view of the university. Also give them the opportunity to speak to us because we approach them and not the other way around. Because obviously I think we're all standing because we want to change things, and we've all been students, we all know how difficult it can be to express our views. So why don't we just turn it around and have us go to the students and not the other way around?
So, stick with the microphone. A lot of you have mentioned in investing in current students, so up-to-date library books, etc. Where is the funding for this going to come from? Can you guarantee you'll be able to deliver your promises?
So I obviously can't guarantee it to 100%, but I definitely think the university has funds. They just need to be distributed correctly. I mean, every single one of us pays £9,000 or more. International students pay way more. So the money is definitely there. The right conversations with the right people need to happen so that that money gets put into us and into our everyday life. Yeah.
Thank you. Repeat the question? Yep. You mentioned investing in current students, up-to-date library books, etc. Where is the funding for this going to come from? Can you guarantee you'll be able to deliver your promises?
No, we cannot promise on these because it relies solely on the students, not just us as Vice Presidents of Education. To drum up such a noise with the universities, the students have to come en masse to argue their point for these extra bits of funding. For example, when I was a course rep from a third year reduction, the mixing desk in Studio 2 was broken, it just didn't work, but then we just got so annoyed with it that the entire class, as a contingency, decided to go to the dean and say, this is not on, we're all going to complain en masse, and it got changed. It can't just solely be just a single person that can fight for that corner. It has to be everybody, and even then, in terms of funding, it has to be research into where all this funding can come from. So it then has to be a collaborative effort between us up here and the students who want to see these changes.
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah. You mentioned investing in current students, up-to-date library books, etc. Where is the funding for this going to come from? Can you guarantee you'll be able to deliver your promises?
I think, as Alex said, we have to be realistic about this, and we may not be able to do it in our term, but we need to get the conversation started massively. If we can spend so much money on giving, upcoming students bags we can afford to buy library books, it just seems a bit like, where is the equilibrium here? Where is the balance? It's about getting the conversation started. It's about challenging those ideas, in the university as part of our jobs if we are elected as VP Education. We're in those conversations, and it's about going, oh, I see you're going to put a revolving door in the library. What about actually buying an accessible door, saving that money and putting that into buying students' books? What about putting that into the Harris Bursary? What about putting money into the Advice and Representation Centre so our staff are not overburdened and having to stretch beyond limits to represent students? At the end of the day, we pay to get an education. If they're not giving us that, and if we do not have the tools to succeed, then why are we paying at all?
It's going to be your turn.
I'm me.
Are there any policies that you implemented in previous roles that you would like to roll out campus-wide? Do you want me to repeat the whole thing?
Yeah, just repeat the last bit, I think.
So are there any policies that you implemented in previous roles that you would like to roll out campus-wide?
I think the main thing really would be the extenuating circumstances situation, whereby students are just left to just email in saying, hey, I need some help with this, and then it just gets lost within the communication system. There needs to be a little bit more support in that way. The main thing I would say was to actually implement somebody from the eye, or someone who's a specialist in that role, to actually help somebody who needs these extenuating circumstances to talk to their lecturers or their deans or their representatives, because just to talk to the lecturer alone, the lecturer could then just easily forget, and then it just makes the situation worse. So you need to have that extra person to help communicate directly these set of circumstances, so then there can be the proper support. And even if it is just representative, the more people in on this communication, the better. So then each element could be supported from the beginning to the end, so that student gets that complete support.
Thank you. Steph? Do you need me to repeat?
No, that's fine, thank you. So there's three things I'd really like to look at. During my school, I've created exam support packs. I asked the school to fund them, they said yes. They've been really beneficial to our students, and it'd be great to see that going out around the campuses. I know we have something within Save Our Students, but it would be great to take it into the schools more. Something that I created whilst I was in the school was a freshers and transfer students pack, which gave them information on how to get on and through university life, because they're, especially for transfer students, they're usually sort of, okay, you signed on, have a nice time. And that's been really informative, and it's been great to see other school presidents, build on that, and I think that's really encouraging that we're sharing great practice. But the massive thing that needs to keep on going is this not even a conversation on ECs and extenuating circumstances, actual action on this system. We need a system that believes students. I shouldn't have to pay £50 to get a doctor's note to say I have mental health issues. The university know that. The university know that. I shouldn't have to get a loved one's death certificate at the hardest time of my life. We need a system that is accessible for students, because what happens? What happens if they can't provide that? They withdraw, they get a fail. The universities seem to talk about it a lot and go, we're on with it, but where's the student consultation? Where is the actual tangible proof that anything is happening? How many students do we have to let down, have to withdraw, have to go through the darkest times in their life without actual support before the students say, enough is enough, I am a student here, I need help and you will support me. If anything, that is the one that I want to see tangible change in. Thank you.
This microphone's doing my head. Are there any policies that you implemented in your previous roles that you would like to see roll out across campus-wide?
So as a course rep, I've worked quite closely about feedback with my course leaders, as the feedback on our course, with it being a creative course, is always, it's not just a right or wrong situation, it's kind of, oh, that looked pretty or it didn't look pretty, but how do you do that in feedback and an actual grade that in the end is your degree? So we now have a system where we get comments to the learning outcomes and then just get general notes on what the lecturers would want to let us know. So that is clearly evident what actually affected our grade and what didn't affect our grade. It's just a comment for general life. As a school president, I haven't quite got that yet on a school level, but I've been consulting students about feedback and their views on the feedback they receive. A lot of people say that they want more detailed feedback or more feedback actually related to them and not the wider student body, or just a general class feedback. So feedback policy, I know it's been things that other education officers or presidents have worked on before or consulted students about, but what actually needs to happen. A feedback policy needs to be created by students that works for the students. So that is definitely something that if I was elected, we'll tackle with students, for students, because it needs to work for the students.
Thank you. Can we have a big round of applause for our VP Education?